Hello and welcome back to the Crave Podcast. I am so excited to welcome Sharone and Alex from the Superfair back on the show. And today we're going to talk about art fairs. And I think there's so much information out there, and I'm sure you have either attended or heard or maybe visited a friend at an art fair. But to this day, art fairs are an incredible way to connect with collectors, meet other artists, curators, and even art advisors. But we really want to break it down and talk about what role do art fairs play in 2026 and beyond. Welcome back, Sharon and Alex.
Thank you, Kat. We're really glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. So, first of all, in your own words, what is an art fair? I don't think I've ever asked that question before.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think 2026 is a year of self-examination for us, for businesses, for artists. Just had an episode with you last week and we talked about AI and all these things that have changed the way that people experience the world. Right. And I think we're just really at a global inflection point. So it's a good question to ask. What is an art fair? And really it's an in-person feedback engine for artists and people who sell art, right? It's a place where you encounter real interested parties one on one in front of the work itself and gain their feedback. One form of feedback is buying, right? That is an important form of feedback. We're not going to minimize it. It's really important, but there's other forms as well. There's ongoing communication. There's opportunities, real opportunities, not the BS kind, like real ones. There's long-term relationships between a person and you and your artwork. Those long-term relationships between people and you and your artwork should not be overshadowed by simple dollar value sales over the course of a weekend. Because I always say this to artists. Someone might come in, a family, let's say, a couple, a kid, they walk in. They came because they saw an invite, a friend invited them, they bought a ticket, and they just wanted to do something on a Saturday afternoon. They didn't come in with the idea of spending five or $10,000, right? It doesn't mean they don't have the capacity to, or the desire to, or the home for it. They just didn't. They went out for the day, right? And so they come across you. They identify with your story, with your work. You guys build a rapport. They love it, and they take home something, a print, a small work, something like that. The wrong thing at that point is to be like, oh, a print, $75. That's not even close to my booth fee. Like, the right thing to do is go, okay, I got a new collector. I got a collector just now. Let me treat them like a collector. I'm gonna get their email address. I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna thank them honestly. And maybe I'll send them a certificate of authenticity, a link to my work, and keep them around, future invites, build a relation. And I'm making it sound transactional. And that's kind of the enemy of this. The reality is making it an actual relationship that doesn't actually feel transactional either for you or them, really building a relationship. And that can start with a sale of a print, that really can. And so an art fair is this space where those things happen, and they happen at a greater rate and in a more compressed and concentrated way than almost any other way of meeting buyers or selling art in the world, right? They have the amount of in-person connections you get in 3 days is more than months or even years for many artists. So that's what it is. It's a place where people self-select to come to a place where art is on display and for sale in order to engage with artists. Anybody walking in the door knows they're going to be doing that. And that's how you should be encountering them as well, as people who came in to engage with artists, talk about art. And again, one of the ways that feedback is provided is by purchasing it, but is not the only way. And it may not even be the most important way that feedback is given during a fair. And by feedback, by the way, I don't literally mean you should move that thing on the painting and put it there. It's not that kind of feedback. It's like feedback in terms of their response and the way that they respond to your work. And it's incredibly valuable to you as an artist.
Yeah, I'm trying it's everything you said is so 100% correct, and I think that a lot of people forget that an art fair for the artist and the patron is the jumping off point. It is not the means of an end. It is a place for you to come and start to be like, "I am here," right? It is not only a business tactic as well as a moment to share your artistic expression, but it is also very much the place of creating more confidence in yourself and confidence in what it means to put your work out there and what it means to talk. So while you're receiving feedback, what's equally important is having this truncated time that is like a master class for yourself of how do I now take all the information and also use it more once I leave as well.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I also want to highlight that even though in the art industry, I think we've gotten sort of used to, the Art Basel and all that stuff, but or there's trade shows or fairs for other industries as well. Like even things like car additives. My boyfriend's dad is in that industry, or tattoo artists who have conventions, or book fairs where independent publishers might lay out what they create. I think there's value in all coming together and one, networking with your peers, and two, like how, if you're a new artist or a new business, this is one of the ways that you can get discovered. And I think it's important to know that it is one of the ways historically that businesses were able to put themselves out there. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, and to kind of tag on that, and Alex and I, we talk about this all the time where how can we help break down the barriers around buying art, around meeting artists? And, there's so much anxiety around artwork for people that they'll come to a place and be like, well, I don't know anything about art. Therefore, like, I can't do anything about that. And I always just want to be like, well, no one knows anything about art. Right? Like
That is
literally
the
no
truth.
one actually knows. And so like one of the most important parts of an art fair is it is a literal space for the audience and the artist to be able to have a moment and be like, hi, I'm a person. Yes, I am an artist, but here is what that means to me. And I want to know, what does that mean to you? And it's just casual conversation. It's not, you're going to meet me and you're going to spend all this money and you're going to make me survive. It's just from a place of, I want to know if you connect to my work. And if not, that's awesome. And if you do, that's also awesome. It's just about creating conversation.
I really love that. And I think that's really important. You both brought up the points of it's not transactional in terms of like hand to mouth, like I'm going to put out my eggs in the market and feed my family the next week. Hopefully I sell all of my produce, but it's really not like that. Art is a luxury good. Like you said, sometimes a young collector might not be able to purchase something right away, but you planted that seed. And this is a little bit of a mindset question, but how can we break out of this like emergency survival mode, like must sell everything tomorrow or else I'm going to die? And at that point, you probably shouldn't be investing in an art fair anyway, right? Like, what is the mindset when it comes to investing into an art fair? How should you approach
Yeah.
this?
I and I always have to say, like, we are an art fair. That's what we do. So take everything we say as we're an art fair. This is what we do, and this is what we've committed our lives and energy and resources to doing. So we obviously believe in it. I think that this goes for everybody. I'd say for everybody who has any type of career that is not a, 9 to 5, there's $1,000 a week in the bank account, like anyone who has to make their own career. The most expensive, costliest thing you will ever do is inertia. You'll lose money with inertia. Always. Always, always, always. Just waiting and doing weird things that like have very low odds, like that will cost you money. Trying to save money, like saving money is great. Like, oh, like, the smoothie was $17 and I can get some really nice fresh fruit and make one at home for $4. Wonderful. Like do that all day long. I'm all for it. I love cooking at home. It's great. Right. And restaurants are getting crazy. But anyway, but, like, saving a little money is wonderful, but being incredibly cheap about everything costs you money. Being like, "I won't put my art out there until I am given money to do so." Cool, that might take a couple years, that might never happen, right? And I see this in all it's not just visual art, it's film, it's writing, it's bookmaking, you mentioned like trade shows for books. It's anything you do, starting a new company, coming up with a cool toy, like anything, I know Sharone knows Toy Fair and I repped a booth at Toy Fair many years ago. Like if you have something cool, putting it out there is the only thing you can do. Like you inertia is going to cost you money. Like, so getting out of that, look, if you quite literally, absolutely in no way, shape, or form can afford something, sure, you can't do it. But then I would say then think about, how can I afford it? How can I get out there? How, can I do payment plans? Like, what is the best art fair? What is the best platform for me? How do I get in front of people quickly? But at that point, I mean, considering it in the here and now and being like, okay, I'm not doing this like, and I'll give you ballpark, like our fares cost between about $2,500. And we've actually lowered our prices recently to respond A, to the economy, and B, we've been able to like aggregate things in certain ways that brought the costs of our fares down. So we passed that on. But our fares cost an artist between about $2,500 and about $4,500 on average, depending on the size of the booth and depending on the city of the fair. It's not a small sum of money. I get it. But if you go in thinking, okay, I spent 3,000, I need to make 6, I need to make 9, I need to make 10. It's that mentality that can prevent you from doing that. It absolutely is. Like, you have to be thinking about this as a relationship builder, force multiplier. You have to know that there's people coming in that are there to spend money on art. That is what our job is to do, is to get them in the door. It's a shared job. I mean, artists bring about 20 of the audience to the shows. So thinking about like, who do I know who will be excited to come and see my work in this kind of setting? But you're not carrying the whole burden. We most of the work. But knowing that that's the case, knowing that there's going to be times when the room is packed and everyone's excited and people are hovering around your booth and buying your work, there's going to be times when it's a little quieter and there's just a couple strolling through the fair, and you need to be there for them. You need to be there for everybody coming in the door. Yeah, I mean, I would say, just remember that inertia is extremely expensive. Like, doing nothing is extremely expensive because your costs are always there. Your rent or mortgage are always there. Your cost of food is always there. All your costs are there. So really thinking like, what is a sensible decision to get my work in front of buyers and start this process sooner than later? That's how I would frame it.
Yeah. And it also makes me think about asking yourself this question of, what does investment actually mean to me and my art practice? So, yes, there's the literal investment of getting a booth, getting walls, putting your artwork on walls, and the idea of selling, right? But even more than that, there's such a larger thing that is happening, which is you actually learning how to talk about, and you meeting somebody that, as Alex said, is maybe only going to buy, not only, but is going to buy either a print or maybe a small work. And, we can also delve into at some point about like why you need to have the different price points of
Yeah.
artwork available, because someone might only be ready to purchase this thing, or if they're coming to the fair, they want to buy multiple things, but then they'll come back later. Like, I'm sure people that have heard me talk here or elsewhere or in our own Superfair webinars, like, I truly to this day get clients that have seen my work in a 2021, 2022 Superfair and are like, I finally bought the house. I finally did this. Like, to me, that is what investment means. It's about so much more than the direct impulse purchase. And like, now I have people that will come to my booth at a fair. Like, I live in New York, and in San Francisco, I had a booth, and someone came up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I've been waiting to meet you for years. And I saw that you're here in San Francisco." And I was like, "Who are you? What is happening? Oh my God, like, I have fans? Like, this is so cool." And it was like, it's just all of these amazing things. And also, I think it's easy to forget that as an artist, it is an isolating line of work. It is an isolating career. You are always alone, and therefore your thoughts become so big and
Mm.
your community is so small. So the other thing is like, an art fair is about so much more than walls and buyers. It's about community and liveliness. And again, the word investment. Like, people, I know that I'm kind of rambling right now, but people will pay publicists thousands of dollars to help them make content, get an article, and they will see nothing come of it. and they've now spent $5,000. And instead, they'll come and do a fair where they're the ones talking to somebody. People are experiencing their work. And then all of a sudden, they'll sell multiple paintings and make new connections. And as like cheesy as it sounds, make some friends.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that these are all so important. So you can't just look at investing in a booth if for you from the standpoint of I better make my money back. It's about so much more than that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I just want to tag on like we're talking a lot about expectations. We're talking about how to go into it, right? And when I paint that picture of someone, coming in and buying a print, there's an equivalent or larger number of people who do come in and then they do buy the big piece, the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, $5,000 piece, right? That happens. But it's going into it, and I would even tell like the strongest artist with the best following and who's done all the fairs in the world. They came to us. I'd still say go into it the way that we're talking about. And it's so much better to be like pleasantly surprised than to go in with expectations that are through the ceiling, and when they don't come true immediately for you, it becomes like a catastrophe. Like you need to go in being like, okay, but strategically. Like I'm not saying do an art fair and only bring $75 prints. I wouldn't do that. That's a
Yeah.
terrible idea. Terrible. Matched only by the terrible idea of bringing only $10,000 pieces. Both are bad ideas. Like it's bringing, your work, your authentic best work that you're most excited about, and bringing it in a spread of prices, a spread of different modes and availabilities for different people, and not casting judgment. It's very important is not cast judgment on people coming in the door. Not thinking that if someone bought a print, they couldn't afford more. That's not what it means. That just means this is a short term people build a lot into, and this is a good answer to what is an art fair. It's also a temporary event. It's a 3 to 5 day event, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And there's so many, things we've talked about. It's like they're not going anywhere. We're an important part of the food chain of art sales and the art market, but it's an event. It's only there for a short time. Some people are super fans and they come to every art fair. Pick a favorite fair and they always go every year. Like big collectors and they're on the collector list. Yada yada yada. The most people are just going to an event. They're going to an art show. They're going to see art and meet artists. And if it's us, every single ad we've put out has said, "See art, meet artists, take art home." That's what we talk about, right? So that's in their head. They're not coming going, we're not advertising like great booze, great food, big party, but there's also some art there. We're telling them what to expect. So when there's 4,000 people coming in the door, they know this is a place where you go to meet artists and buy art, right? That said, they don't know you yet. They don't know you. They don't know anyone in the room. They maybe have one friend, like, oh yeah, I go see my friend's booth, but they don't know everyone. And so if they buy a print, if they buy a smaller work, if they buy nothing, that doesn't mean again, it doesn't mean they couldn't afford it. Doesn't mean they didn't respond to it. Doesn't mean they didn't like it. It just means it's a start of a conversation, a relationship. And yeah, for some people, they come in and they fall in love and boom, the checkbook comes out and you're selling. That's great. And we'll teach you if you work with us how to strategize for that. But have something for everybody and respect the audience because they're there for you. That's my thought. So
Love that. Thank you both. This is great. And I want to add something too, because I think, this is like kind of like the devil's advocate that we're, I've accumulated so many voices from our audience, like, from different groups and different perspectives, which they're all fair. This isn't a judgment, but, someone might say, well, why should I, spend money to show my art? Shouldn't people pay me to show my art? To which I will reply, nothing is ever free. And even as someone who worked with galleries at this point, with 15 years in, I've shown with over 10 galleries and like, it's probably dozens more jury shows and things like that and fairs. And I'll say that even if the model is a little different where you're not paying to show, there's going to be a cost. There's going to be, for example, when I had my dream come true international show and ended up spending 6 grand on
mhm,
shipping.
mhm.
And even if I made a bunch of sales, like it's pretty difficult at that point to break even after the gallery takes 50% and you're paying for your own lodging and your own food. And it's exciting. I'm not saying that there's, anything wrong with that. It's just putting things in perspective. So even though you might be quote unquote chosen by the gatekeepers, which, I have experienced that and it's exciting. It makes you feel good. There's always a cost, right? There's always something you're paying for, whether it's in finances or time or energy or limited freedom when it comes to your creativity. So when you're providing a space like an art fair where you have the freedom to curate and to share your story and your work in a way that suits your agenda and not someone else's, I think that's a huge perk as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I have so many responses to what you just
So
said.
much. Sorry, I just opened a can of worms, I'm sure.
No, no, it's
Drama.
wonderful. It brings up what you mentioned about your international show, and on our last episode, we talked about, the genesis of Superfair and how we like why we started it, and there that it's we saw what was happening in the quote unquote art world and how artists were waiting, not waiting like passively, but like doing the right things, to get the attention of galleries, things like that. My business partner, got the attention of a gallery. He had a show in Paris
Nice.
and we went to Paris. And I think what you said is interesting. I'm trying to kind of reframe it in some way, but like it's okay to celebrate your when you're chosen. It's lovely.
Absolutely. Yes,
But let's
I
yeah,
100% agree with that.
totally celebrate that. But like we're talking art business here. Let's talk about how the sausage is made. I mean, we paid for our own tickets.
Mhm.
We slept in a basement for 3 weeks. We paid our own, all of our own food and beverage. The framing was taken out of the proceeds of the art that was sold. So in the end, he only, I don't even know. We definitely lost thousands of dollars going to Paris for his art show. And, I still know the gallery owner. We've known him for years and maybe he listens. So it's okay. I don't care. But it was a very costly thing. And that was between our first super fair and our second. And we went home. We were living in Miami at the time. And we went home after that. And it was actually the flight back when I rewrote the business model for Superfair. When I rewrote the business model for this art fair, it was on the plane back from that trip to Paris because I was like, this doesn't freaking work. This
No.
doesn't work for anybody. It's lovely, to do it and just say to put it on social media and say, yeah, I was in this thing. I also just read an article this morning of 5 independent film directors who are achieving success in the sense of like, big film festivals, Oscar nominations. And I know this as an insider in the film industry. I know who got nominated for an Oscar and still gives massages if you need that. So like there are people who are in this industry who can put on the tuxedo, go to the thing, get in the limo, have the film nominated, and they have to wait tables.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that's bad, do everything for art. Yay, okay. But like let's be honest about this. And like, there are times you are chosen where that's not actually economically viable for you. And what we do in this model, in our specific model, is we give you that power. Like, yes, it costs something, but then it's yours. It's yours. It's your proceeds. They're your connections. They're your buyers, they're your community, like everything you get out of the show. And not only the tangible stuff, but like Sharone was saying, the the ability to like learn how to talk about your work is yours. You own it. So everything you get from doing a fair like ours, you're gonna own that. And it's an on-off switch for you to toggle that on in your career and bring it in or off. I mean, to the extent that we are going to evaluate you and your work and decide if you fit in our show, yes. But at the end of the day, this is your choice to participate, not the choice of a committee, and you're one of 25,000 people or 10,000 or whatnot. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's going to appeal to different people if you're really, just waiting for that moment. And I will, sorry, I have one more thought on this. And then I want to hear Sharon's thoughts. But there was something you'd said, that question of why should I pay to show my art? Shouldn't I be paid to show my art? And I would say that if a business is leveraging your art to drive its own revenue, you should be paid for your art.
Mhm.
Like if your work is being used on television, it's very common. You should be paid. That shouldn't be visibility or exposure or some BS like whatever. Like no, you should be paid. You're decorating the set. Like come on, and like you should be paid and credited. FYI, paid and credited if
Yes.
your work is used. And so if that's ever asked of you, and it might be, and it probably will be if you follow the right channels. I know a lot of artists who have, but yeah, you should be paid and credited for that. If a hotel operator or a restaurant operator says, I'd like to put your work on the walls, yeah, we'll put some price tags up on it. Or you could just like rent it from me is one option. You could buy it and add it to the permanent collection of the hotel or restaurant. Those are good options. Exposure and visibility, I don't think are very good options in those cases, right? What we're doing is different. We're giving you a retail space where you are buying the opportunity to build a buying community around your art and make in-person and fair sales. So that's a different thing. It's not decorating our business so that our business can, you are our business. Your success is our work. It is our job. You're becoming a part of it very much as someone might in a trade show. And we don't make it like cold. It's very warm and we're very, we want to show you how to succeed. But that's the difference in my opinion is, we're not running a totally separate business that we're decorating with your work. We're running a business for your work. So
Mhm.
that's our difference.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That's super valuable. And I also agree, I think that even now, even after showing for decades, well, not decades, but, over a decade with galleries and doing all the things that, the things that I was taught in art school to do, it's really nice to know that I could buy a booth from the Superfair because that is always an option for me, and I love that freedom about my career, and also having all these different perspectives has been so good for my soul because in the beginning, you're just like, "Well, if someone doesn't choose me, like, that's it. I'm screwed," and now it's like, "No, I can be independent fully. I can just from my studio. I can do an art fair. I can say no to this gallery," which I have done, not in a mean way, but just like, "Hey, I need some space," and to do my own thing. So thank you so much. That's awesome.
Well, and I would love to tag on that because I think there's something so interesting to your original point, Kat, of I think there's this idea that, well, if I represent myself, it's lesser or it's
Mhm.
not as professional. And it's like, well, that's actually not true at all because by doing an art fair, you are already in a professional space, right? Like you are hanging your work in a professional space. Like our walls are these like beautiful 10-foot tall walls that are there. They're set up with proper art lighting. Like there is a structure around the showing up. And the biggest difference by being a artist forward booth is then you are the star, right? Like your work is yours. No one knows it better than you do. So if there's a question that's being asked, you are the one that can answer it versus if you're there at like an excuse me. Yes, there are art fairs that are gallery run, but then it's you with a bunch of other paintings, a bunch of other artists, and you are not the central focus. Your art is not the hero. Your art is not what people are going to be engaging with in that booth solely. And so I think that, sometimes people will be like, oh, well, if I didn't get this, I guess I should do this. And it's like that mindset doesn't actually help because then if you show up to a fair and you are like, I guess I'm here, people are not going to know how to trust you and they're not going to know how to believe in your art because your energy is going to have a really, really big effect. And so I'd say, like, if you are someone that loves your work and believes in your work, and I hope you do, otherwise, why are you an artist?
Yeah.
Like, show up and know that this is your moment to kind of be like, I am here and I'm so excited to be able to directly talk with you and then also not have to give X amount of my money away to somebody else. Like,
Yeah.
again, I keep using the word investment and Alex has used the word investment, but doing an art fair is not, you're not reshaping the game. You're not
Mhm.
changing everything you know. It's just doing it in a new light or in a different light.
Yeah, I love the word investment too. And I think back to baby cat when I first, really got serious. I quit my job and I was like, okay, I'm going to make the magazine work and I'm going to make my art career work. And I invested in an art fair early on. And to this day, one of the people that stopped by my booth was an art advisor and I actually like had her on the podcast recently. I had no idea. She said she's been following me for like almost, what is it? Almost been 10 years. And it was so like mind-boggling to me that I didn't know this. And she's like, "Yeah, I saw your work and I've been following you on Instagram and tracking your journey ever since." And he's like, "When there's an opportunity to work together, then of course, like not even that, but just the fact that like that in-person connection with a art professional. And it was also an artist run fair. So it wasn't like someone invited me and, took my work. And on the flip side, I'm so grateful for these opportunities. But to your point, I've also had my work at art fairs through galleries, and at one point, a collector stopped by, and my painting wasn't on the wall, so they had to take it out from the back, which was so embarrassing and humiliating.
Oh god.
So I'm all for investing in ways, and if that works for you, I know that's awesome. That's just another side quest, as we mentioned on a previous episode. But just investing in ways where you control the narrative. I think that's like a
Yeah.
blessing that we all have in living in this country. We're privileged in many ways, and that's a privilege that we can take advantage of.
Yeah, and I think like, we talk about what types of art fairs there are, right? There's art fairs where galleries represent artists and sell their work, and there's art fairs where artists represent themselves and sell their work. We happen to be the second one. And I've been saying this for a while, but I think it's more true now than ever is like the buying audience right now are people who are in their like late 20s to early 40s. They're not snobs, they're professionals. They didn't, get like a complete art education. Maybe I'm generalizing. That maybe many of them might, but like they're not like this snobbish old guard, old money type, right? And so I would argue that in many cases, the gallery model and the gallery fair model is incredibly off-putting to a lot of people who might otherwise buy your art because I'm asking about you and they're telling me about your degree and they're telling me your opinions, but like through the lens of some kind of like, and it's like this idea that I, as the visitor, am going to want to buy it more because you're making me feel more
Stupid.
confused. Yeah, it's weird, and I just don't I think that is in many ways how the art world has operated for many years, and it might have worked with an earlier group of collectors, but I look at the collectors, they look like me, and they look younger than me.
Mhm.
And, and so as I watched, and I mean, I've had the fortune, I've been around art fairs for 20 years now. My first Art Basel was 2006. I've been to every one since. And, I've watched the ebbs and flows of the art market and specifically art fairs. And as I've been going to them, I'm not going to name names. I still like going, and I have a couple friends that are curators or dealers, and those are the good ones. I'll tell you, they're
Yes,
the good ones.
of course. There's so many
But,
good
I
ones
go
too.
and, like,
Oh,
I
honey.
walk up to art that draws me in at a gallery fair, right? I walk up to an artwork that draws me in, and they're like, "Oh, this artist had a museum show in Belgrade, and they, like, got an MFA from this school, and they did this," and I'm like, I like it less now." Like, I don't care, like, I wanna know why they made it, like, what experience did they have that I can relate to as an individual, human to human, that's gonna sell me. Not like, and I am a collector, and everyone who knows me, I have over 700 original works, like, I'm a big collector, and I actually had someone at a gallery at an art fair tell me, they said, "Do you wanna sign up for the mailing list?" And I said, "No, thank you." They said, "Well, if you're really a collector, you'd wanna be on the mailing list." And I said, "Okay, thank you." Like, you just made me feel yeah, I don't actually feel bad, but, like, I might have. So, and that's I like the word you used, cat control. And that experience you had where your work, your painting, your lifeblood was put aside and someone that you told to go look at it couldn't see it. And does the artist in that booth where that gallery said I wasn't a real collector know that that's how their work is being represented? Like, because I'm not going to follow that artist now, So it's an it can be an uncomfortable thing. It's not always, but like I just think there's a lot of value and, consideration, reframing like what it means to be a successful artist. And it may be you meeting your audience.
Sorry.
It's just a good luck ring. I
Anyway,
love
so
that.
it could be you meeting your audience one on one.
I love that so
Yeah.
much.
I think there's something really important to point out though, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but it relates to everything that we are talking about, where I will say there's something I understand that is a big point of fear for a lot of artists around doing a self-represented booth. And there is something really interesting where I think a large excuse or maybe not excuse, but like a roadblock that can come up for artists is from the place of, well, I'm not good at talking. I'm
Mm,
not good at talking about my work. And I think what's so funny is because we see the galleries who have like done the research on us, done the thing of like, well, this artist showed and this and this and this. And we start to create this narrative of like, well, what do I have to show? Right. And I find that to be so unimportant. And like the beautiful thing about an art fair, whether it's anywhere, and to your point, Alex, is it's actually so about honesty and being able to show up and be like, here's the crux of why I do what I do. And if you are with a collective or a gallery that they are good at doing that and sharing that, and it's not about your credentials, but it's actually about your work, then that's amazing. But when you are there on your own and representing yourself, it's not about standing in front of people and being like, well, here's all the things that I do, and I am inspired by the turning of the world. And it's like elements of that that are helpful. But at the end of the day, you can literally be in your booth and be like, this is this is a series that I've been working on for the last 4 years. I don't really know how to talk about it, but I'm really glad that you're in my booth. And it's just even something as simple as that that then makes people be like, oh, wait, I do want to learn more. And then they ask questions. Like, I think that art, we think it's something that we show, and then it's like, now you have to know how to feel and you have to know how to interpret this, when it's actually about creating a conversation. And as we started off this whole thing with like, what is feedback and what's
mm.
exciting from that point of view? Because that's why we're creating ultimately. So don't let yourself get in your own way of like, well, I'm not a public speaker. And it's like, that's not
Yes.
what it's about.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. And it's to say, like, when you were sharing this, literally, I thought about, well, when I go to the Philadelphia Museum of Art and I look at a Monet, do I care that Monet is not there explaining what the heck he painted? Or when I'm reading a novel, I don't need some critic to tell me what I should feel or how engaged I am with the book. And later on, after I read it, I might go look at, like, what the criticism is. Like, I just read Yesteryear, side note, and I was like, "Okay, I need to know what people think about this." Like,
Oh my
oh my
God,
god.
I'm in the middle of yesteryear. Anyway,
Yeah, I
where?
won't say anything else, but, to your point, like, give the viewer, it's not just about you, it's a conversation, like you said, and they get to have their own experience. Whether they love it or hate it, it's their freedom and their experience to have, and you don't have to over-explain. And never ever in my life, as when all the roles that we play, right, as a collector, as a curator, or as a fellow artist, have I ever decided I don't like a work just because the person wasn't good at talking about it or writing about it. I have a visual relationship with this piece, or a sensory, right? Like, it's not about how well they can explain it. I can make my own conclusions.
Well, and not just that, but I think what we also have to acknowledge is that like we are in a day and age where it is possible to meet a living artist.
Mhm.
And, like, that is so huge. So it could even be like, yeah, I saw this piece, I fell in love with it. Right away, I have said, I want to buy that. That's happened to me in fairs where people have come into my booth. They haven't even said hello to me. All they did was come up to me, be like, I'm going to buy that. And then they'll turn to me, be like, are you the artist, by the way? Yeah, yeah. Then that actually becomes part of their story, right? Where then they go to someone else and are like, I went to this art fair and I fell in love with this painting. And then I ended up meeting the artist and I didn't even know why I loved it. But then I got to talk to them about it. And that is as equal to where we are in today's day and age. Like, I'm going to go to a museum and I'm going to look at a Monet and I'm going to be like, ugh, I looked at that Monet. Monet is someone I would love to have on my, if I could have dinner with anyone in the world, that's what it would be. But to go to a contemporary art fair today, like the Superfair, and be able to be like, I fell in love with this work. I wanted to invest in this painting and I got to meet the artist. And now I can also collect from them in 5 years when their art has changed, but they have that personal connection to you is so exciting. Like that to me is all about the like the joy and the beauty of showing an affair. Cause like people will collect from me every few years because they're like, oh my God, this new style that you're in is so exciting. And I really hope that my great great grandkid is going to make a buttload of money off of you. But I don't know. I'm dead. Like it's, but it's so, this is a big part of where the industry is changing, I think, where people want to be as invested in the artist as they are in the artwork. They want to be able to be like, I met them when. It's just like, I don't know. It's so exciting and it's organic and beautiful and in your own hands.
What a gift. Amazing. Well, I am so grateful for your insight and your wisdom. And I think this was such an important conversation about art fairs and controlling your own narrative and having these opportunities when you're ready for them. And speaking of which, when an artist is ready and they would love to work with you, how can they get in touch? What do you currently have going on? How do they get involved with the Super Fair?
Definitely. We have a lot going on. So we have 4 fairs open right now for application. It's New York, Houston, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco. We're also launching shows all around the country in the next 6 months. We're launching Boston, Denver, a whole bunch of other shows all over the place in really, really cool markets. Philadelphia is one of them as well.
Ooh,
Yes, there's a lot
exciting.
of new things happening. We offer Create Magazine, Create Podcast listeners $250 off of any booth if you just mention Create when you book a call with us. We'll include that link in the show notes, and you can also go to our website www.thesuperfair.com. You can navigate around. There is a page on there for artists that talks about our shows, and through that page you can also submit a form, and then through that form book a call. But we'll have the direct booking link in the notes for this as well. So you can talk to me, talk to my colleagues, ultimately talk to Sharone about how to display your work and how to talk about it at the shows. But yeah, we'd love to have you.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for coming back, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Create Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, may I ask a small favor? Please leave us a review on iTunes and share the show with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single conversation. You can learn more by going to createmagazine.co, join our community, and read new articles on our Substack, createmagazine.substack.com, and connect with us daily on our Instagram @CreateMagazine. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and we'll see you on the next episode.